It's over. Now, to the future. What's up, guys? I'm Pencil here, and here to do a quick little breakdown and review for chapter 271, the final chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is known as, I actually don't know. Guys, I just recorded the live reaction. We can check it over on Patreon, fellas. So $1 a month, or become a member for us little studios, but check out the final live reaction to Jujutsu Kaisen. But I just hit the live reaction. I already forget the name of the chapter. But with that being the case, let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Heading me, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do mean to have it on me and keep it on me. And another fun fact, you know what time it is. It's time for 4 minutes. The last, man, this is great, because I have a separate idea for how I'm going to do quick reviews for like every other series I cover, considering I do want to just go back to my original long form yapping format for everything else. But honestly, that may not include this channel, just on like certain ideas that I do have. But with that being the case, let's set it one last time. 4 minutes for plot, for characters, for scaling. There is no future. It's over. But for old time's sake, we'll do it one last time. Bam! 4 minutes. Let's go. So, for the plot of this chapter, it is simply showing us the new system of things. What is left over, what is remaining, what has to be done, what will be done. That is what this chapter is literally all about. Because we just see our main cast and crew doing the Jujutsu thing. They don't have any adults working with them in this chapter, which I think is very particular. They mention Ijichi, but he doesn't show up in this chapter. And I think it's poignant. Once again, this is our new main cast. This is our new main crew. This is the original main crew. And thusly, them going on a mission by themselves, for themselves, of themselves makes perfect sense. And seeing them get active and do what they do to stop a curse user is nice. Notably, I think it could have been more thematic if it was a cursed spirit, but ultimately there's a reason it was a cursed user, and I think it's very particular that it was a cursed user, and I greatly appreciate the fact that it was a cursed user. But with it being the case, the plot is very, very simple. It's them catching and apprehending a cursed user, and us focusing on the future. If that's one thing this chapter lays out heavily, it's the idea that the past is in the past. What could have happened does not matter. What did happen has happened, and thusly we should just keep moving forward. Everything in this chapter is about that. The moving forward of the girl and her relationship with this new guy that she's dating, the nature of this curse user and how he ended up spending a whole bunch of bans on a woman he didn't really know, and thusly, while there is, some desire to have him have some sort of reprimanding and punishment, ultimately, Yuji tells him to just keep moving forward and ultimately expect great things from him. Satoru Gojo focusing on the idea of the future, and ultimately the idea that, yeah, sure, he and Yuji could have done switch training, but one, it would have been redundant, and two, ultimately, Satoru Gojo wanted the future to not just be born of him and just a copy of him, but free of its own. Liberated, in a sense, just like Yuji himself was liberated from the curse of Ryomen Sukuna. And the plot of this chapter ends remarkably with everything and everyone who could move on, moving on. Even the very nature of the most cursed object in the entire series, simply moving forward at the end of all things, as everything has to keep moving forward. Ultimately, time waits for nobody. Everything in this world, even the world itself, will die. One day, many years from now, the last star will go out, the last black hole will run out of fuel, the universe will collapse in a glorious heat death. But that is why our now and our future matters as people, as individuals. Ultimately, that's why you should not focus on what held you back before. You should not focus and seek things such as revenge or hatred or malice or anything of that sort. No, what you should focus on is what you're going to do next. Of course, that doesn't mean forget the past. That doesn't mean repeat the mistakes of the past. You should always learn from the past. But you should move forward. Never try to move backwards. Simply, maybe at best, glance your head back and think of what could have been, and then ultimately think of what could have been as something to move forward from. That's what all the characters do, even Ryomen Sukuna. And that is interesting. I ultimately like it. Once again, I've come around from the leaks versus the actual chapter and the translation we got. Once again, the translation will change again once we get the official translation with Johnny Boy. But still, I think the motif of the future and the freedom of choice that comes with the future is very, very important. It's one of the underlying themes of JJK. Yet, at the same time, I do think the inevitability and nature of failure and loss and the inevitability of certain things is also one of the greatest themes of JJK. And thusly, that's why this macro empty ending is so poignant on the micro level, because everybody's moving forward and the plot sells that perfectly. So 5 out of 5. But let's move on to the characters. Now, this has interesting stuff. Obviously, the character dynamics of the group are basically the same as they were 100 and maybe more than 100 when Inobara fall. Actually, maybe about 150 chapters ago, where essentially they're all back to normal. Itadori's the dumb, good-hearted one. Nobara's the other dumb, good-hearted one with a little bit more sass, and Megumi's the smart one. That character dynamic has not changed. Of course, it hasn't any time to change. There's no time for it to develop, as we didn't get much of it in the first place. But they play that role. Obviously, the curse user and these two characters, they just don't matter, like, at all. It doesn't really matter. But the main things that do matter are threefold. Actually, fourfold, I'd say. Number one, obviously the biggest, is Satoru Gojo. Well, actually not the biggest. The biggest is Yuji Todori, but it's because of Satoru Gojo. Ultimately, Satoru Gojo expects great things from Yuji. Satoru Gojo wants Yuji to be free of him. Satoru Gojo wants the world to be free of him. Satoru Gojo wants the future to be free of him and all that he represents. And ultimately, while Satoru Gojo is a beacon and a focus and a light up of the future, as he says, ultimately, haven't we had enough Satoru Gojo? Haven't we had enough of his influence? Haven't we had enough of him? And by proxy, JJK is a narrative. I'm assuming that's what KA is using Satoru as a mouthpiece for. But with that being the case, he wants the future to be the future, of course, laid upon his groundwork, but not exactly his groundwork. He wants the kids to be free. He wants the kids to move forward and not focus on looking back. It's why he brings up the idea of, ultimately, I think there should be at least one among you who forgets about me and develops strength completely different from that of my own. That's what he wants. He wants to move on. He wants others to move on. And I think it works. Especially as a character who was so heavily trapped in the past, and the past is what led to the narrative as we know it. I think the idea and motif of moving forward, even in Satoru Gojo's mentality when it comes to the other sorcerers, is good. And it makes sense for the context of his character. Much better than that letter he wrote to Megumi Nobara. Looks like Gege can still write Gojo. Hallelujah. The other major character, naturally, who benefits from this is Itadori Yuji himself. The nature of expecting great things, the nature of becoming the next leader, the nature of being the person who is willing to move forward in a different way than Gojo ever was. Because he's not as perfect as Gojo. He's not as strong as Gojo. He's not as fast as Gojo. He's not as diverse as Gojo. But he's Yuji Itadori. Someone born of a power entirely different from Satoru Gojo, but with the same willingness to look forward, the same willingness to move on, the same willingness to develop and grow. Yuji Itadori and Satoru Gojo could have definitely benefited from more time together, but ultimately it is clear the lessons and impact that Satoru Gojo had on Yuji Itadori are ever prevalent and ever important to the young man, and thusly he is also willing to move forward. And naturally, the final character who decided to move forward, even in death, is Ryomen Sukuna. Now, this had me mixed in the live reaction. We can check it over on Patreon for those wondering about the remember for those. But with it being the case, this had me mixed. And obviously the appearance of Mahito had me absolutely bamboozled. Once again, the guy, I didn't realize he was going to be here. But the idea that Ryomen Sukuna is, one, a being characterized by revenge, and two, a being willing to change, both make sense, and I think ultimately do add to his character, even if they did hit me with some whiplash. I still don't know who this character is, though. Someone tell me who this character is. Is this supposed to be Yorozu? Is this supposed to be original Arame? We saw original Arame. Who is this? Who is it? Someone else. Is this his mom? Who is this? I don't know who this is. This bothers me, and I didn't look it up before recording this. But whoever that is, someone please tell me before I record the main review. I'm going to wait on recording the main review, if only so I can know who that character is. But with it being the case, Ryomen Sukuna being defined by revenge, interesting. Ryomen Sukuna being willing to change, interesting. Why? Because they are both human traits. Unlike Mahito, the one character, and the final character I want to mention character-wise, who cannot change, because he is a curse, and curses are innately simple, and thusly do not have the capacity to develop like humans do, as they only follow their one set purpose, he's unable to change. He'll be forever stuck whining like a child. But Ryomen Sukuna was willing to change, for he lost, and he was proven wrong. Bada bing, bada boom, about 4 minutes. The character work in this chapter is another 10 out of 10, at least for me. Now, let's move on to the scaling. Now, you may be wondering, Pencilman, what on this good green earth do you have to talk about scaling-wise? There's just randoms in this chapter. Look at how big that dog is. That's a big behind dog, ain't it? I think Megami got stronger. I think everything about Megami's specs have increased because I don't think Divine Dog was ever that big. The head of Divine Dog is almost as big as half of Megami's body. So Megami clearly got some swole gains. Now, of course, we only see regular Divine Dog. No more further totalities or anything like that. That's unfortunate. I guess we're just going to be left to speculate on that for forever and eternity. But hey, Megami seems stronger. The other scaling thing I do want to mention is the idea that Ryomen Sukuna does truly believe he lost and thus he should change. And now, it goes back. This is not even a fault of the chapter itself or even the current Sukuna character of itself. It's just like, and it's poignant because he didn't lose the individual power. Because if he lost the individual power, if he lost the Satoru Gojo, then ultimately he'd be kind of proven right. So it makes sense that he views this loss as like a loss, but because it is a loss, like he lost. It only bothers me because scaling wise, at least, and this is admittedly pure top of the line crazy Sukuna slopper in me. Sukuna's the strongest, and he's never going to be surpassed. Especially now, permanently with the series over, no future involved, nothing of the sort. There's absolutely no way on this good green Earth, the planet, this is going to be surpassed. There's no sequel to save him. There's no there's no Bubutsu Bison. There's nothing. There's no sequel. Nothing's happening after this. So we're kind of done in a way that's permanent. So Sukuna lost because he was an idiot, but that itself is okay because it doesn't necessarily contradict any scaling or any of his statements. So it's fine. But it do bother me though. It do bother me if only for the fact like, yeah, you lost, but you lost not necessarily because your ideology was incorrect. It's because, I mean, technically it's because his ideology wasn't correct. That's the thing. His ideology wasn't correct because he didn't understand the value of human life and didn't really care about it. And thusly, by being purely driven by revenge against a system that he embodied, then ultimately he was destined to fail. And bada bing, bada boom. Like, I think the issue is, like, I see so many ways he could have won if he was just, like, the slightest bit locked in. But that's me, and that's my dumb, silly little headcanons. And once again, talking about the main motif of the series, which is the future and humanity and freedom and progression and the failures of the original systems, and Sukuna is the complete culmination of the original systems. Yeah, it makes sense. He lost, and thusly, he's willing to change it in the next life. Now, the main question is, how does this next life thing work for him? Is it instant? Is he going to have to wait a while? Does he go to an airport? Is Satoru Gojo going to be reincarnated? The whole nature of the JJK like life system and power system and all that, it's weird. It's vague. It's super duper unknown. Heck, Mahito even appearing here apparently isn't even Mahito. It's a vestige of Mahito that's left over that is essentially stored within Sukuna's soul, considering Sukuna's soul interacted with them. This does imply that other characters who were touched by Mahito and ended up perishing did have little after effects or moments with them, considering Sukuna has one with him. But still, I mean, it's a neat detail. I'll take it. It's nice. And I'm just happy that Sukuna, we got something from Sukuna. Do I wish this wasn't this? Do I wish this was 268 instead? If we didn't cut ahead and we just got this moment with Sukuna, we got to close the character in one fell swoop. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not going to take points off this chapter for that. I'm not going to take points off the scaling for the chapter for that. The scaling of this chapter is, I mean, it's mostly headcanon assumption because there's no real fight in the chapter. So it's like whatever. I don't know. The only other like weird pseudo scaling thing. Why does Yuta still have the stitches? Like, Kenny had to hold those because of a binding vow. Why does Yuta have to hold those? Though his eyes being on Maki is adorable. But that aside, let's talk about the future. There is done. Yeah. It's over. It's done. There is no more JJK. I don't even see Gege touching this universe again, if I'm being completely honest. And this is, like, due to a multitude of factors. One, because Gege, at least through, like, how Satoru Gojo is used as the mouthpiece or the focal point this chapter, I feel like Gege is somewhat, like, done, finished, finito with this universe. And obviously, like, they've been talking about, I swear, they talked about, like, an idol manga 3 years ago. So we're going to get that from Gege before we get anything else. And also just the idea that, like, sure, we could get prequel stuff. Sure, we could get what if stuff. But once again, going into the idea of JJK, it doesn't matter anymore. It's done. We can take our lessons from JJK, we can learn from it, and obviously, don't be surprised when you see more JJK content well after the manga ends. Not just from me, but like from everybody. Like, heck, JJK built some channels. It built mine. So like, you're still gonna see some JJK afterwards, well after it ends. Just like you're seeing MHA well after it's ended. Well, not well after it's ended, but a while after it's ended. You're gonna keep seeing stuff like that because it still is a popular series. So on our end, the future of JJK is in our hands now. It's no longer in the hands of Gay Akutami. They essentially let us free. The special manga event is like, I think the first 1 through 245 chapters of JJK being free on Viz.com. But if you already have Viz, doesn't really matter. And then the other special announcement was JJK hitting 100 million copies sold, 100 million copies in circulation. So those are the only two things. Gege's done. But we're not done. That's the beauty of this future that we have. As to quote Zennis, we shall go together. Because JJK is over. And are there things about the ending that I would have changed? Absolutely. But also, I'm not a professional writer. Never have been. Most likely never. Well, I won't say never will be. Still working on my own stuff that I hope to publish one day. But still not professional. I didn't go and get a degree in any of this. So, if you had to ask me, what do I think about the ending of JJK? Where I was initially much more negative with the full context of this chapter, I have now looked at it in the same way that I look at the Full Metal Alchemist ending. I still think the Full Metal Alchemist ending is better, by the way. Don't think me saying that as, oh, it's the Full Metal Alchemist ending, so you think it doesn't matter. I think it's very similar to the Full Metal Alchemist ending, which reminds me a lot of the AOT ending, which brings me to JJK. Where, in the macro sense, not much has truly changed. If anything, things have stayed the same, but outside of Hikari, who's frowning for some reason, everyone, and Maki, who's also frowning, and Megami, who's also frowning, everyone's happy. And that is fulfilling enough in of itself, right? Even if it's not the way I wanted it to end, even if it feels weird or wrong in some areas, even if this finger pointed straight up to the heavens is half an insult, half a compliment, ultimately, Jujutsu Kaisen, the manga, is over. And it's in our hands now. So what we do with it is what we shall do with it. And let's just say I'm excited for that alone. For the future JJK content on the channel, obviously there will be no more reviews other than the long form review that will be for this chapter, which I will also yap extensively about because there are a bunch of things I didn't get to talk about in this video. So there's going to be that. And expect some redone tier lists because now I have the whole series. I'm probably going to do a reread. If y'all would be interested in a JJK retrospective where I go through like arc by arc and break it down and like reread or cover certain sections more in depth than others, let me know. Once again, I am more than happy to keep making JJK content. It's for the series that I've been super duper passionate about. And that's how it shall continue. That's our future with JJK. That's my future. But the question is, what's yours? That was the corniest thing I could have said. But I'm out of time. So if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please do me a favor and leave old beginnings. Old, like the word old in the beginnings, as in the word beginnings, in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as little as $1 a month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as little as $3 a month and get the same perks and more. Some of those perks include the 23-minute live reaction to this very chapter, ad-free variations of all my videos, and to become a $25 patron or a $25 member. You can order whatever video you want. Also, I do have a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below where you can drop 5 beans for a short video, 25 beans for a long video, or any beans at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. And now I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching and reading with me. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Sierra, Greyhound, Eternal Flame, NMA, Real Rare, Red Wolf 4765, Paris Arnold, Astro, Brandon Payne, and G Prosper. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons, Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Encarnacion, Josh Brown, Igneal Lind, and A+A. And I'd like to give a big ol' thank you to our $7 members, Autumn Mornings Lazo,
Fine, Zombie Hunter, and Austin Wimberly. Then I'd like to thank you to our $10 members, Robbie Uchiha, Jay Warrior, and AZ Void. Then I'd like to give a big ol' thank you to our $10 patrons, Overlord Zero, Joaquin Munoz, and Idem Okami.
And I'd like to give the craziest, juiciest, most next-level, quadruple, sloppy, toppy, next-level superhuman in beyond this world kidney having thank you to our $100 patron, or that guy with a pencil tier patron, Calvin Elder.